Stop wasting time on oil changes that don't protect your turbo. Most people drain the pan and think they're done. They're not. There's contaminated oil sitting in your turbo passages right now, oil that's going to cook into sludge and kill your bearings. Have you been making this mistake? Comment yes or no below. I want to know how many of you are unknowingly destroying your turbo right now. The difference between a turbo that dies at 100,000 miles and one that hits 250,000 with diligent maintenance? 5 minutes before you drain that pan. Here's what you're going to do. Flush contaminated oil from the turbo passages. Pre-coat the bearings with fresh oil. Verify oil flow through the system. Takes 5 minutes. Uses a 60cc syringe and clean oil. That's it. This is the exact procedure that separates 100,000-mile turbos from 250,000-mile turbos. But before you do it, you need to understand what you're actually fixing. Section 1. Why your turbo dies young. Your turbo spins at 100,000 RPM. Some hit 240,000 RPM. That's 4,000 rotations per second. The bearings that support this shaft are held up by a thin layer of oil. No oil means metal parts rub together at extreme speed. The bearings get scratched, the shaft locks up, turbo dies. The oil passages inside your turbo are microscopic, smaller than the tip of a mechanical pencil. And here's the thing that kills 90% of turbos. It has nothing to do with the turbo itself. It's what happens inside these passages. And if you understand this one thing, you'll never have a turbo failure again. These passages deliver oil to the bearings and drain it back to the pan. Now here's what kills them. When oil breaks down from heat, it leaves deposits: carbon, sludge, varnish. These deposits narrow the passages like plaque in an artery, choking off oil flow to the bearings. Less oil reaches the bearings. More heat builds up. More deposits form. Eventually, the passages clog completely. Here's what happens during normal operation. Your turbo creates extreme heat. The turbine side hits 950 degrees Celsius. That heat transfers to the oil. The oil breaks down. Modern synthetics handle this better than conventional oil, but they still degrade. The breakdown products stay suspended in the oil until you change it. Now here's the trap. When you drain your oil pan, you're draining the bulk oil. But here's the trap. The contaminated oil in the turbo passages stays put. It doesn't drain out because the passages are shaped to trap oil. Gravity can't pull it out. When you fill the pan with fresh oil and start the engine, that contaminated oil mixes with it immediately, diluting your new oil with the worst oil in the system. Then it circulates, depositing more carbon in the passages. The passages narrow further. Oil flow decreases. Bearing temperatures increase. The turbo starts burning oil. You see blue smoke. You hear shaft play. By the time you notice symptoms, the damage is done. Here's where most people make a critical mistake without even knowing it. After an oil change, fresh oil takes 3 to 5 seconds to reach the turbo. In those 5 seconds, the bearings are running dry. Metal parts rub together at extreme speed. They get scratched. If you do this every oil change for 100,000 miles, the scratches add up. Eventually, the bearings fail. Here's what's wild. Industry analysis shows that 90% of turbo failures trace back to oil starvation and contamination. Kinked supply lines, low oil levels, contaminated oil, clogged passages, all preventable. But here's the good news. You can prevent almost every turbo failure by managing oil correctly. Flushing the turbo passages before every change, pre-coating the bearings with clean oil, eliminating the dry start window. Neither alone gets you to 250,000 miles with diligent maintenance. But together, short intervals plus pre-lube, they eliminate the two main causes of turbo failure. The common mistake is thinking the oil change handles everything. You drain the pan, you replace the filter, you add fresh oil, you think you're protected, you're not. This is where the 5-minute procedure comes in. Section 2, the pre-lube procedure. You need 3 things: a 60cc syringe, clean engine oil that matches your spec, a drain pan. That's it. No special tools, no lift required. 5 minutes of your time. Step 1. Locate the turbo oil supply line. This is the line that feeds oil from the engine to the turbo inlet. On most cars, it's a metal or braided line running from the block to the turbo housing. Follow the line to where it connects at the turbo. That's your injection point. If you found it, You're already ahead of 90% of people who never look at their turbo. You're good to move forward. Step 2. Disconnect the supply line at the turbo inlet fitting. You're breaking the connection at the turbo side, not the engine side. Use the correct wrench. Don't strip the fitting. Once disconnected, you have direct access to the turbo oil inlet. Step 3. Fill your syringe with 50 to 60 cc of fresh oil, not the old oil you're about to drain. Fresh oil from the bottle. Insert the syringe tip into the turbo inlet fitting. Inject the oil slowly while hand rotating the turbine shaft. Access the shaft through the compressor housing inlet. Gentle pressure only. Never use power tools on this shaft. Watch the turbo oil drain line. As you inject oil and rotate the shaft, contaminated oil should start flowing within 30 seconds. Keep injecting until the oil coming out runs clear. This usually takes 50 to 60 cc. If you inject 60 cc and only 20 cc comes out, you have a blockage in the turbo passages or drain line. If oil won't flow at all, stop. Your drain line is blocked. Fix that before proceeding. Step 4. Reconnect the supply line. Tighten the fitting to spec. No over-torquing. Proceed with your normal oil change. Drain the pan. Replace the filter. Fill with fresh oil. Start the engine. Let it idle for 1 to 2 minutes. Check for leaks at the turbo connections. You're done. Here's what happens if you don't do this. Sludge accumulates, passages narrow, oil starvation accelerates, bearings fail, turbo dies at 120,000 miles. You're looking at $1,500 to $3,000 in repairs. Here's what happens if you do. Clean passages, instant oil flow, protected bearings. Turbo hits 250,000 miles with diligent maintenance. 1 5-minute procedure every oil change. That's the insurance policy. Why this works? You're forcing contaminated oil out before it mixes with your fresh oil. The bearings get pre-coated with clean oil, protecting them during startup. And you're verifying the oil passages are clear and flowing freely. Critical timing. Do this before you drain your oil pan, not after, before. You want the old oil in the pan to catch the contaminated oil you're flushing from the turbo. If you drain the pan first, the contaminated oil dumps onto your garage floor. The rotation technique matters. You're distributing oil across the bearing surfaces, not trying to spin the shaft fast. Work the oil into the clearances with gentle hand pressure. Feel for smooth rotation. Any grinding or resistance means bearing damage already exists. Bonus protection. This procedure eliminates the dry start risk completely. When you start the engine after the oil change, the bearings are already coated with fresh oil. No waiting for oil pressure to build, no metal-on-metal contact. Instant protection. When to do it? Every single oil change, not just when you install a new turbo, every time. This isn't a one-time procedure, this is maintenance. Contaminated oil builds up between changes, so flush it out every time. The 250,000-mile secret combines this procedure with 3,000, 5,000-mile oil change intervals. Short intervals prevent oil degradation. The pre-lube procedure prevents passage contamination. Together, they eliminate the 2 main causes of turbo failure. Now, here's where most people mess up. What's your biggest fear about doing this procedure yourself? Are you worried about stripping the fitting, damaging the turbo, getting it wrong? Comment below. I'm going to address the most common fears right now. Common questions. Does this work on all turbo configurations? Yes. Single turbo, twin turbo, variable geometry. The oil supply and drain system is the same basic design. Locate your lines, flush the passages, verify flow, done. Conclusion, the 5-minute insurance policy. Pre-lube before every oil change flushes death from your turbo. Bearings stay clean. Oil flows instantly. With diligent maintenance, this procedure plus 3,000, 5,000-mile oil changes, turbos can reach 250,000 miles. That's the difference between a $2,000 replacement and keeping your original turbo for life. Share this video with someone who's about to waste $2,000 on a turbo replacement. 5 minutes of work every oil change. That's the insurance policy that saves you thousands. Do this, and you'll never have a turbo failure. Check the turbo maintenance video for the complete protection system. Stay up to date and keep your car protected. Hit subscribe.